All right, man, we live.
Yo, what's good, everybody? It's November 22nd. We back at it again with the Gradual Grind. I'm Evan Anderson.
I'm Jonathan Marcel.
And we got some good content for y'all this weekend. Or week, whenever you listening to this. But this week, we had our first guest, my cousin Forrest Richter. Um Yeah, so just a little quick background on Forrest. He started off, he went to college for 4 years at the University of Minnesota. Did the typical like 9 to 5 job for about 8 years, 7 or 8 years after. And then he kind of moved into a different direction, just seeking kind of a more fulfilling role in life. So he got involved with a startup, scaled that business up, and then it's just kind of like a domino effect from there. And until the point today where he is, running his own business. He's working for himself, which is super dope. But it's just so much more realistic when you actually can speak to somebody and you have that story that attests to the hard work and everything. But even beyond that, like Forrest is such a dope person. um like y'all, Marcel might not even know that he's my cousin, so I know a little bit more about him. But like, he's always just been such a good person. Like he did the Big Brother program when he was younger, just looking out for inner city Milwaukee kids. He's mentored a lot of people. Even now, like if you go on his LinkedIn, he has pro bono consulting. Like he's doing this because he enjoys helping other people. Like
Yeah, man, I
he's
got that.
get
I got that vibe from him right away. Like
yeah.
it really enjoys just the process of like helping somebody actually do something instead of
Yeah,
benefiting from
man.
it.
Super genuine, super awesome dude. Like even the type of venture capital stuff that he's getting into, like he is in it for a group of people that he doesn't even fit into. Like he wants to help minorities, he wants to help women, he wants to help LGBTQ, all those people. Like he is definitely a selfless person, and just a great. I'm really glad that I know him, and
Shit, he
have
jumped
the
on our
opportunity.
podcast knowing that we don't get any views. Hey, he's just willing to help.
Yeah, man, he's a good guy, and I hope y'all get a lot of value out of it, because I know that we did.
But before we cut into anything else, we gotta
Hmm.
stay with the usual process.
Yeah,
Go ahead
yeah,
and let's go through our weekly struggles, our weekly updates. How
yeah.
was your week, bro?
I feel like often I, I've done this. I'm going back on like things that I said in the past, like, oh yeah, I have this 2 year plan. But I'm not gonna lie, like I watched Undercover Billionaire,
Oh my
and
god.
yo, I don't know if you if you've seen the show, but it got me thinking like, man, I can do this. Like I don't know, man. It just made me think of things in a different perspective. So I haven't done anything. Like I'm still doing the same stuff that I've been doing, but for the most part, I've just been looking in different ways, like how can I flip this cash and make more money? And yeah, I mean, that's honestly my biggest takeaway from this week. I watched a whole season of Undercover Billionaire in one day while I was working.
Self care.
Yeah, man, and I was motivated, and so we'll see. I mean, just continue working, putting in the hours, and doing the same old, same old. What's up with you, man?
Man, you know it's funny how you say like going back on things you've said before. I think that's
Hmm.
perfectly normal.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
part of
it's
growing.
yeah,
It's part.
it's part of the gradual grind. It's part of the process, right?
Yeah.
But no, yeah, I think it's funny how before I used to feel like I was responsible for doing certain things, right? I said
Hmm.
I felt responsible for taking care of certain people. But
Hmm.
now, after some conversations with certain people and with Forrest, actually, it's like that's not really the purpose, right? Maybe I should focus on my life and doing what I want to do. And
Hmm.
the unexpected benefit of that is that I will get to help them do what they want to do, right?
Hmm.
I shouldn't be pushing anything specifically on them.
Right.
So, for example, if someone doesn't want to be an entrepreneur, they don't have
Hmm.
to, right? There's nothing wrong with working an office job if they enjoy it.
Yeah.
If they don't want to expand their business, if they don't want to move out of a certain city, that's their choice, right? And who am I
Hmm.
to be like, no, you have to because you need to see more, but maybe they don't want to see more. So
Hmm.
just kind of understanding that, and it's made me feel like I have a lot less pressure on me. Like, you know what?
Hmm.
They have their own plans, and they're thinking about these things too, maybe, right? They're their family, their friends, and of course their family and friends because we probably have a similar mindset. And so they have a plan that maybe I just kind of help with instead of try to guide, you know?
Mhm.
So just that, man. Just still trying to work, try not to get fired, you know? Because
Yeah, I feel that. Hey, you're in El Paso with your family,
yes, sir.
getting that good family time in, man.
For
That's
sure,
what's
and it's
up.
important, man. I mean, that's really the reason we do this, right? Like,
Mhm.
I remember a couple of years ago, I was thinking to myself, why in the world am I making excuses that I can't go home because I'm working, but yet the only reason I'm working is to help support myself so I get to spend more time with my family.
Mhm.
Like it was just contradictory and backwards. So
Mhm.
now that I work from home and my program's in a decent spot, even through COVID, shit, I just took a week and a half off. I was like, all right,
That's
I'm just
what's up.
gonna head to home. I can work from here, right, with my
Mhm.
office job, and then for
Mhm.
practice, I'll just hold virtual trainings, let my business partner run some of the things. So
That's
why
what's
not?
up, man. That's what's up. All right. Without further ado, we all gonna get a good interview, and I hope y'all enjoy it.
Yeah, man, I really recommend watching all the way through.
Yeah.
We'll see you on the other end.
So my house, right?
Hmm.
Oh, hey Forrest,
Hey guys,
how's it going?
good. How are you?
I'm good. This is my friend Marcel. We went to Houston Baptist together my freshman
Oh,
year.
nice.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you, Marcel.
Nice to meet you, man.
Yeah. So we've been doing like, this like weekly call where we kind of record our thoughts and just kind of like, what our plans are. And we're both like super forward minded people. Like we're always thinking about our future. And we're so eventually, we just kind of want to end up leaving like the 9 to 5 work life, and we want to, own our own business, stuff like that. So we've been having these conversations for probably like 2 or 3 months, and I was like, oh well, Forrest, my cousin, he's an entrepreneur, and so I was like, oh, we should probably talk to him and just kind of pick his mind and see what like his experience was like. So we just kind of wanted to see what your thoughts were on like leaving a work life and starting your own business. And yeah, so like
Yeah.
you went to University of Minnesota, correct?
Yep.
And then you did work like a 9 to 5 or
Yep.
like a regular job for a while.
Yep. Spot on. Yeah. I'll tell you. I'll just tell you my story, and you guys can interrupt if you have questions about anything specifically. But like,
Okay.
shout out to both of you already for recognizing that the 9 to 5 isn't for you.
I've known that since I was like 7.
So I didn't. So I went to school. I went to Minnesota, and my degree was major with a philosophy minor. Did I freeze? Did I
Yeah,
freeze?
just a little
I'm
bit.
sorry,
Yeah.
guys. I'm having some weird internet. Honestly, it's Big Sur. I don't know if you guys have Mac products, but my MacBook Pro is a 2016, and it's fine. It should not be obsolete, but Big Sur has been fucking with it ever since
Yeah.
I upgraded. So I've had problems with it. So anyway, setting that aside,
Mhm.
so I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I became a psych major because I liked psychology classes. I became a philosophy minor because I liked philosophy classes. I didn't really have a plan. Coming out of college, I thought I was going to go get my PhD in psychology.
Okay.
Went as far as taking the GRE, had good enough score there. But my girlfriend at the time, she's not my wife.
Nice.
She was getting a job in finance.
Mm-hmm.
And she was going to be getting a job either in Minneapolis, Madison, Milwaukee, or Chicago. And
Right.
she chose Milwaukee. And Milwaukee was the only city that didn't have this area of psychology I cared about was called industrial organizational psychology, basically workplace psychology.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no PhD program here for it, which so I just didn't do it. And again, at that time in my life, very much aligned with who I was. I was like, okay, I'll just go figure something else out.
Right.
And so I really got a job. Like my goals for work were I want a health insurance and a 401k. That seemed to be all I knew I needed to do.
Yeah.
So I took a job in marketing, and I lucked out because this was, I mean, this is going to make me sound older than I really am, but it was still early enough in digital marketing that a lot of people didn't know what they were doing. And I didn't necessarily know what I was doing, but I knew how to run analytics a lot better because my psych background was stats heavy enough in data analytics that I was able to apply that. And especially in the industry I was in the construction industry. I was like light years ahead of other people on the marketing team, at least in terms of like understanding the data and how to apply it. And so that gave me an opportunity to just kind of grow in marketing quickly. And then staying on the data side, I was able to kind of get pulled into other projects internally that they just didn't have anyone. So that pulled me into more of an ops role. Did I freeze again?
Yep, you're good.
You're good.
Okay, so I got pulled in. So that pulled me more into an ops role, and I really liked operations because operations was very numbers focused, like where it was just like, okay, like I can see stuff and I can do stuff. So that was really my career for like the first 7 years of my career.
Okay.
And right around age 28, and I promise you all will have this too. Like all of a sudden, you'll notice in your friend group between like 28 and 32, like everyone hates their job, just like everybody does. And so there's like this segment of like people that like realize they hate it and they want to change it. And they like will like do something like for most people, they'll just go and get a different job somewhere else. So they're like, I'm not going to do this anymore. And then like another segment of your friends will like just resign themselves and be like, I guess this is what I do for the rest of my life. This sucks. And so like there's like this real interesting tipping point right around there. For me, I just realized it was a culture issue. It wasn't a work issue. I actually liked the work a lot. I hated the culture. I was always the youngest person in every meeting. It was construction, so it was super non-tech focused. It was like we were considered a very innovative company, and I felt like we were like 10 years behind the rest of the world. Like, like our entire operating system was SQL, and like that's what like our business was run on in this was 6 years ago, so 2014 we had like an entire SQL operating system, and so. And so that was kind of like, so I really just wanted to make a move for culture. That's all I cared about. I was not, I was in it, like wasn't thinking about money. I wasn't thinking about growth. I was like, I just want to be a place where I fit in. And I realized at that point that I didn't have a good network, which is important. I would encourage you guys, if that's something if eventually you want your career to go in a different direction now, I would encourage you to start building a network in the space that you want. And we'll come back. I'll come back to this because I have some pretty practical advice on networking as somebody that's fucked it up a couple times.
Okay.
That I can help you with. But setting networking aside for a second, I had none. And so I kind of leaned into the small network I had. And I was talking to a friend of mine. He's like, hey, you know what? Like maybe you should check out startups. I didn't know anything about startups. I didn't know anything about entrepreneurship. And he's like, I got a buddy that works at Trunk Club. And this was, Trunk Club is like subscription men's clothing company.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Kind of like the men's version of Stitch Fix. And they're based out of Chicago. They ended up getting acquired by Nordstrom. So they did fine. This was before the acquisition. And I was able to get an interview down there. And so I went down to Chicago and I interviewed there. Actually got offered the job, but my wife is at this point, she's in school in Milwaukee. So we weren't going to really relocate and they weren't cool with having me commute or work remotely. But what I learned there was that there is a place, like it was what I was looking for culturally. It was 100% what I was looking for. It was the very first time I had been to a place where there was people that were like my age, but not dumb, like smart young people who were like doing meaningful stuff, cool work. There was nobody wearing a dumb polo with the company's logo on it. There was people drinking beer. There was a rock climbing wall. There was a tree house and all this stuff. And I'm just like, this is amazing. Like, and I was like, this has to exist near me. And so I was like, literally started Googling, like I was like startups Milwaukee. And I just like, was like, what startups are around me? I don't know any. I just got lucky. At this point, I happened to get connected with a company called Bright Cellars, which is a growing, at the time, I connected with them right after they got their seed funding. They're a direct-to-consumer subscription wine company. And so I was their first adult hire after they got some money. I was 28 years old. I was the second oldest employee in the company. I was kind of the only one with any real experience outside of just like some shit that they threw together. And it was awesome. It was exactly what I was looking for. It was like, people were cool. Work was fulfilling. People were really into the work. That was the thing that like secretly I didn't realize I was missing. Was just like, in that 9-to-5 world, like that really normal 9-to-5 world, like there are people that are just like resigned to do it forever and they don't like it and they're not excited about it. And like, I didn't realize like what it would feel like to be somewhere where like a team was small. We were 17 people at that time and everyone just really fucking cared about growth, because if we didn't, we all were going to be out of a job. Like we were having questions like, how are we going to get a sale by Friday? And we'd all be like, I don't know. And somebody would be like, should we do a referral program? We'd be like, that sounds like a good idea. How would we do it? And like, we just like figure this stuff out. And it was super fun. I worked the longest hours of my life and it didn't feel like it though. Like it never felt like it. Like it was like the kind of place where like I would regularly like pop in on the weekend, just like, cause it was kind of downtown. So it'd be kind of around the bars and I'd pop in there and there'd always be like 4 or 5 employees in there, like drinking. And I'd like pop in and like have a beer, a cocktail with them and move on with my day. It was just like a good hang. Yeah. And so I like really, really enjoyed that. To this day, that was my favorite year of work ever. We grew super, super fast. Like that was like a rocket ship company. And so like by the time I was only there for 2 years and I led ops for them. And by the time I left, like the way that I kind of talk about it to people is like, when I got there, the same problems we're talking about is like, how are we getting a sale? How do we set up a referral program? By the time I left, we were over 50 employees when I left. And it was like conversations of like, what do we think about, line 75 of the employee handbook? Do we feel like this is too exclusive? Like it was it was starting to shift corporate and that's okay. Like that's what needs to happen. Like they have since gone on. I was with them as they were doing their Series A raise and they closed the raise shortly after I left for 5 million. And that's really what you're supposed to do at a Series A. Like it is like all of those. And like, so all the people that were like me, that were like, I love this early bananas, like things are crazy. Like almost all of them are gone. It's now like very specified people where you don't need a generalist anymore. You need someone that can spend all day in AdWords and is an expert in AdWords. Yeah. And so I learned that A, I love startups. B, I love being early stage. So I left there to set up operations for another startup in Milwaukee. And that was really checked off a box for me. The box I wanted was some international experience. I didn't have any international business experience. And this one was great because our supply chain and our funding was based out of India. So I had to do a lot of like work with them, building out the supply chain, building out the infrastructure to get to the customers. And that was a job that frankly, I really liked too. Like I was really happy there. We grew. I was there for a year, and in that time, we went from 700K in sales to 2 million, and we were moving in the right direction. But throughout all of this, I've been working on kind of my own stuff in the background. So we're going to go backtrack a little bit in this story. So when I joined Bright Cellars, the wine company, that was my first exposure to startups. It was also my first exposure to venture funding and venture capital and how startups make their money. Yeah. And that was, venture funding is the dumbest industry. It's where I spend all my time now. And it's a dumb backwards industry. It's super, super predictable. It's a lot of groupthink. It's a lot of entrenched behaviors. And it's also, so operationally, it's really limited. It's very inefficient. On top of that, it's exceedingly exclusive to the point of being inefficient as well. Less than 10% of all venture funding goes to women, people of color, and LGBTQ founders combined. The median fund size in the United States is 75 million. There are only 35 Black women who've ever raised more than $1 million. It is it is mostly, like I say this mostly tongue in cheek, but it's unfortunately the truth. It's mostly straight white dudes on the coast giving money to other straight white dudes on the coast.
That's what it sounds like.
And so knowing that, I started spinning up a startup in the background called Uncrowd, which I still run, which is basically trying to connect the dots there and essentially like recognize that is a social impact issue, but it's also a huge economic inefficiency. Like white dudes did not monopolize talent. They monopolized opportunity. So there's all this talent over here that is like not being invested in, and investors should care about that. And so that's really the conceit of what we're doing there. It's a two-sided platform where we're bringing in investors on one side, we're bringing in underrepresented founders on the other side, and creating opportunities for those investors to connect and trying to find capital for people that don't have. So that's going in the background. That is not what pulled me out of the 9 to 5 though, because that is still not making money. So what actually pulled me out is right around spring of 2019. Spring of 2019, I was having conversations like this. I love conversations like this. I do them all the time, as often as possible. I love founders. I just love working with founders. I love people that are thinking about things differently. And what I was finding was that founders I was talking to, or people I was talking to, wanted to keep working with me, and there wasn't a way to do it. And they didn't want to. And frankly, I would have kept doing it. I would have kept doing it for free. I do it for free all the time. But a lot of people were being like overly respectful of my time. And and so I was like, I realized it, and I was like, okay, well, it seems like these people want to pay for something. And so I spun up a consulting business, like just to like create something that was kind of in the background and looked official. So like if somebody wanted to reach out cold, they'd feel more comfortable. If somebody wanted to, take a bunch of my time, they felt like there was an equitable way for that to happen.
Right.
And really slowly, like wholly organically, only through referrals, it's grown to a point that at the beginning of this year, I had to quit my job because I couldn't do both of them. And so I'm now consulting, full-ish time. It gives me more time to focus on the startup. It gives me more time to focus on other projects. So I'm currently looking at raising a venture fund myself, a really small one, somewhere around 3 million on the low end, 10 million on the high end. I'm trying to get some capital. So working on that. And then the consulting side has been great because it allows me to work with founders in particular. The piece to it that was really tricky was two things. The biggest thing was pricing. So like I started off, I just didn't know how to price. Like I wanted to be accessible, I wanted to work, but also like when I realized it was probably going to become something I needed to pay the bills, I had to figure out how to balance that.
Yeah.
And
how to
so
be profitable. Yeah, that's a big struggle.
And so what was tricky for me is like the people with money are not actually the people I like working with. I like working with the people that have energy and are like trying new stuff. And so I had to figure out a way to kind of make that functional. And so what I've done to make that work is I operate on kind of a sliding scale based on how much I believe in their product and their opportunity. So like I have some clients that I work for exclusively on equity. And they'll be like I have one client right now, which I absolutely love. I think they're going to be gigantic. They already have a working prototype. They built a little battery that has a sticker. And as long as you have a phone that can charge wirelessly, you can take this, peel the sticker off, slap it to the back of your phone, and it's got a full charge in it. And you can just leave it on there and take your phone with you. And I think they're going to be a rocket ship. So I was like, cool, like you guys don't need to pay me anything. I will take a little bit of your company and I'll help you through this.
I'll take my 10%, just 10.
Yeah. And then on the other side, like I have like a very traditional, like this is my least startup-y client. Like I have a very traditional, like they are a therapist practice that is stuck at like being just them. Like as big as they are as founders, like they got as big as they could be, and they didn't know how to be bigger. They didn't know how to they wanted to reach a national audience. And so for them, I'm like, look, A, there's no way you're going to give me a piece of your business. Like you have an established business. You have no reason to give anything away. And B, like, this is not the upside of like a tech startup that I think is going to go somewhere. So for them, I'm just like a strictly consulting rate. And then I have a bunch of clients that are somewhere in between where it's like, give me 3% of your company and $1,500 a month, and I'll work with you on this stuff and cover that kind of thing. And we just kind of make it work. I try to do net 90 terms too, so that they can, they can hire. I can essentially do 3 months of work for them before they end up having to owe me anything. Just trying to make it work and be functional.
Right.
So that is the whole story of how I got here. Yeah. What can I answer? What questions can I answer for you guys?
That's awesome.
Yeah, that
Like,
was really comprehensive. I was not expecting all that at once, so I think some of my questions were answered. But I do have a few more,
Yeah,
and
hit me.
it's interesting because you mentioned how you went through school as a psychology major and a philosophy minor, which kind of relates to me because I went through school as a physics major and a philosophy minor.
Okay.
Ended up graduating. My girlfriend's also into international business, trying to get into finance. So
Okay.
I'm currently at the point where I'm working for this company. They're a great company. Like I can't complain about them in the terms they gave me, but I'm starting to try to realize what are ways I can start building something on the back end to eventually take over that. And so currently I
Yeah.
do that. I'm an AAU basketball coach. I started a
Okay.
program about 3 years ago, try to build that up. And the thing I'm constantly hit is I'm very young, so a lot of the ideas I have and I try to present are being shot down because of my youth.
Yeah.
So working with young people, right? How do you see them kind of overcome that obstacle and that challenge?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good point. Let me start by saying, like, I don't have a super great answer. I can tell you, I went through all that bullshit too. I have a pair of glasses. This is not them. These are like blue light glasses,
Uh-huh.
but I still will throw these on if I think I'm going to look too young in a meeting. I have another
Smart.
pair that I have another pair I would take some things if I would felt like I was going to look too young. I I've really leaned into like making my brand more or less more of who I am, mostly because I don't want to work with people that are going to care that I'm too young and I have that luxury. So I'll come back to that in a second. But literally how you present yourself can overcome a lot of that. So like I would not, even today, I promise you, I would not dress the way I am if I was like if I knew I was meeting with a new client, and I knew they were more of a traditional business, I would throw a polo on. I wouldn't have a backwards hat on, just to like be a little less scary for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So some of that presentation can carry that, but ultimately, like you can do whatever you want. I didn't want to be doing that, so like I was really intentional, like even with my consulting brand of like, you know what, I'll throw it in the chat just so you guys can take a look at it if you're curious. But like, it's very intentionally like looks young is not, oh, that's not going to be a link. Some of the languaging I use, like if someone's going to hire me to be a consultant, I don't want them to think that I'm going to be McKinsey. I don't want them to think I'm going to be like a large corporate consulting firm. I don't want them to think I'm going to show up in a suit. Like that's not doing either of us any good.
Yeah.
So that's kind of an aside for where you are now. Like a lot of it comes with my honest answer is like, figure out if that's what you want. If you want to be in the world where people are concerned about that, that's fine. But that means that you might have to wear a suit, and you might have to wear a tie, and you might have to, play that game a little bit differently. I didn't want to. So I just kind of found a different tribe that didn't care about that as much. And I kind of like was like, okay, well, you're just not my person. I'll go find some other people.
Right.
And that's been kind of my direction.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. That sounds similar to what me and Evan been talking about. It's just like how we present our ideas and present ourselves. And it's been kind of a struggle because sometimes it seems like the people that we need to help us are more traditional, but we really want to be in the younger, more innovative side. So I guess that.
So let's talk networking for just a second, because I think this will be helpful and even like present. So I went through a lot of networking to get where I am today. And now I have a really good network now. And I mean that in like a tangible way, excuse me. But I didn't get there through networking. What I realized is like I'm sure you guys have been told to network before, right? But no one ever tells you how to do it effectively.
Yeah.
And so what you do is like you do anything else, is where you like go to networking stuff and you think that that's where it happens. Like I have never felt like grosser in my life than being at networking events where you're just like going around shaking hands and handing business cards.
It's so
and, like,
sleazy.
Oh, it's so sleazy. And it feels like whether it's said or not, but sometimes it even is said, is like, what can you do to help me? What can you do to help me? Like, what can you do to help me? And that's like that's the conceit of it. And what I was really intentional about it. I like coming out of that my first job, I knew I didn't have a network, and I knew that it fucked me at that time. And so like I didn't want to do that again. So I was really trying to like cultivate a network that was like more in the startup world. And I just kept ending up at these things where it'd be like, what is this? Like, who are these people?
Right.
And so I took that same time that I was doing in networking, and I essentially just applied it to being supportive of projects and people that I was interested in being around.
Right.
And so like, instead of like looking for something, I started giving, because I was like, it's the same amount of time and I'm going to get to meet this person, and this person's looking for help on their project. Like, great. I want to know this person. And that really ended up being the seeds for my consulting business. Is all of a sudden there was like 30 or 40 people who were all kind of in the startup entrepreneurship space in Milwaukee, who all had really positive experiences where I wasn't asking them for shit. I was doing shit for them. I was helping them with stuff. I was helping them navigate things. And for me, like, it was, you know, tactical, but it also felt a lot less sleazy, because I was learning stuff. I was learning how their business works. I was learning the problems they were having, and I was helping to discover new things. And especially what's happened now, I mean, I make it sound like it's like startup years go faster, don't get me wrong, but like, this is really only like 5 years I've been in this. And already like people who were like at the stage I was, like my network is now like doing real shit. Like they're successful now. And so like, we were all like, I have like this group that would all say very positive things about me, that were all kind of at the ground floor at the same time. And then we were all helping each other, and we all still help each other. And now everyone is like somewhere between 15 and 75% more successful than we were when we started. And so all of them are like a next level up. And so all of them like now help each other and look for ways to help each other and look for ways to communicate that. And all of that just keeps opening more doors. And then now like, I have younger people coming up to me, and I can do that same kind of stuff backwards. So like now, like, and I like saw that. So now I'm like, great, like I will put as much time as possible into like up and coming founders that I think are promising, because I know they're going to be successful. And I know at some point they're probably gonna be more successful than me, but they're going to have something really nice to say about me to somebody else that's going to create opportunities. And so like the short answer I would say is like, find people working on stuff that excites you, and then just help them with their stuff. Like get into it, dig in. Like they're going to be desperate for extra help. They're going to be desperate for extra bandwidth. They're going to be desperate for knowledge and things that they don't have. And you can just like build a really cool community that way.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, for sure.
So like, you went through 6 or 7 years at that like regular job.
Yeah.
Like if you had to do it all over again, would you do those 6 or 7 years again, or would you just kind of, you know, because it kind of happened organically to where you built that experience, and then that kind of opened up other opportunities for you. So like going back, because that's where we're at, you know, we're like, we just graduated, we have college experience.
Yeah. Like, look, your mom will kill me for saying this. If it doesn't feel right, get the fuck out of there. Like it's like the thing, like every step I've taken has felt like a giant risk. And it's turned out like none of it was nearly as risky as I thought it was going to be, or as scary as I thought it was going to be. Like jumping from like a corporate job to like that startup that I jumped to, Bright Sellers, like felt like the scariest thing in the world. And everyone in my orbit, like parents, also thought it was the scariest thing in the world. It turns out like now that I actually like understand this world, it was like the safest startup move I could make. They literally just got funding. They had all the support of the community. Like people wanted them to succeed. There was no like surer bet in startups around. And so like they're like, and then even if things go bad, and I get it, like you don't want things to go bad. Like you got bills to pay, you've got rent, you've got shit. But being a startup failure ironically makes you more marketable for the next time. Like when in Silicon Valley out in California, where most of the capital is, like they don't like investing in first-time founders. First-time founders are really naive. They don't know shit. They haven't made the mistakes. If you failed 3 times, you've learned things not to do 3 different times. Like you're all of a sudden a lot safer bet. And I can tell you, especially like if you know that the corporate world or this world isn't right for you, then those things that are risky about making the move aren't going to matter anyway, because the only people who are going to frown on them is that corporate world. That corporate world might look at it and be like, what a dumb choice. Like what an irrational decision to leave your cushy job and go try something else.
Because they're stuck in their ways, right? Yeah, they think that their way is the right way.
If you know that's not the world for you, and you go over into this other world, everyone there understands this. If you and I didn't know each other and we just met and you were just coming off a startup failing, I would be like, wow, must have been a good experience. Like, tell me about it. Like, what'd you learn? And then I'd be like, what are you doing next? Like, let's work on it. Like that would be the mentality.
Yeah.
Now, with that said, and I tell this to a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs, because I do think there is a misconception about how truly like binary entrepreneurship needs to be, where it's like one day I had stability and the next day I dove into the deep end. And I think that that's like a very sexy narrative. I think that's cool. It just doesn't have to be that way. You don't have to like quit your job and then set up in your garage and you have only, you know, all of your life savings into it. Like you can very, very reasonably be like, okay, well, I've got a job, so I'm safe. I'm going to commit 3 hours a week to start just to see if I like it, see if I enjoy it. And I'm going to do that on, you know, one night a week. I'm going to stay up late and put in 3 hours and then be like, okay, I like it. Then you're going to go like, now I like it. Now I want to see if there's any market for it. I'm going to see if I can get any traction. So I'm going to make sure I put in 6 hours a week now of just extra time. You know, I'm working my 40, maybe my 50, maybe my 60 at my regular job, but I'm going to find 6 hours a week that's going to go towards just to see if there's like a market for this, if something can happen.
Yeah.
Maybe you get a little traction, maybe you get a little excitement, and then you go like, okay, well now I'm going to commit one full weekend day plus my 6 hours during the week. So that's going to get me to like 16 hours a week. Now that's a lot of work on top of what I'm doing, but that's going to give me some meaningful steps forward on this project.
Yeah.
And eventually, like, for my consulting business, like I was doing them both at the same time for a while until I couldn't. And then once I couldn't, then that became the point when I made the leap. But for a while there, I was making more money than I'm making now as a consultant because I was consulting, you know, 30 hours at the same time that I was working 40 hours. And then that became just impossible and I had to flip. But like, it's very reasonable it's way more reasonable than it might feel to just start slow and feel it out.
Yeah.
I guess that leads me to my next question then. I like that idea of, right, that you don't have to go, you know, balls deep into whatever you're going to do.
Yeah.
But there's this common, like, pop culture misconception of, like, if you're not grinding, you're not doing anything. How do you feel about that current, like, I guess, ideals and thoughts?
Yeah, the hashtag grind culture is problematic. It's super, super problematic. It's something I have never ascribed to, and I don't really know anyone that functions well, that is like, okay, I shouldn't say that. There are some exceedingly successful people who have done that path and have made that path appear attractive. I think they are unique individuals. I don't think I was ever going to be Elon Musk. Elon Musk was always going to be more successful than me. That's not who I need to compare myself to. But what I see is a bunch of people who think that now that's the path they need to go on, and all they do is burn themselves out. And I tell founders all the time to avoid burnout. For sure, your self-care matters. Like, I don't want to set that aside. I'm talking about strictly a bottom line decision though. Your business cannot tolerate you burning out. So it's the same thing as like overspending. It's the same thing as not having a smart budget. It's the same thing as, you know, like it should be a financial decision. Like your business can tolerate you checking out for a weekend if you need to, for a week if you need to. Your business cannot tolerate you checking out for 2 months because you're fried.
Yeah, because you're in the gutter.
And you burned yourself out. And so like, I am super, like, if anything, like, I think I'm probably the most like middle of the ground on this. And it kind of drives me crazy. I think either of the extremes are just like easier headlines. So like I see a ton of people that are like on the 4-hour work week side of things.
The Forex traders, yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, cool, like I'm just gonna do this and I'm gonna be smart here and I'm gonna arbitrage a bunch of stuff and that's cool. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. I don't think that's real either. And then like the super grind culture, I don't think is real. I mean, like they're all real. I just don't think they're effective. I don't think either side is effective.
Yeah.
I just think you can, like, it's going to be work. It's going to be more work than you're probably doing. It's also going to be super fulfilling. It's really nice. Oh, I forgot about an important thing too. Like the ownership side, I cannot stress what a motivator that was to me coming out of the corporate side. And even like coming into the startup where like I get a tiny, tiny sliver of equity, like it turned out that like that was the motivator for me. That was the thing I missed. Like when I would do like bullshit tasks in the 9 to 5 job, I'd be like, this is the dumbest thing in the world. When I would do bullshit tasks and I like had a little bit of ownership, I'm like, okay, like it's helping me, it's helping me,
Right.
it's helping me make more money. And then now that like I own my own thing, like it's just like I don't care at all. Like I'm happy to do all the stuff. Like I'm happy to. It's like it's growing my business. I don't feel like it's a dumb thing to do.
It's like this is kind of like what you do. You know, you said you're on these calls all the time, and
Yeah.
you can feel the energy. You know, like that work for you. That's not how I go to work Monday through Friday. Just letting you know.
Right. Yeah. And probably like, well, if you take anything away from this call, just know that there is a version of work that is like the same way I feel about it. Like there's a version of it for you guys. It's out. Like, frankly, it's probably not the same path as me, but there is a version of it where you guys will be super psyched to be at work and you'll be super psyched with the work you're doing.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think it's both, like in both of our futures that we'll get there. It's just timing. I don't know when the time will be, but I'm definitely looking forward to it. I'm glad we're doing this, and you were super motivation today.
And it's so funny. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like your story and your path and the things you've done are really relatable in my sense, because that's really what I want to do in the future is consulting. Because I found the most excited I'm always most excited when I'm talking about new ideas and how to get it done, and helping people come up with different types of business structures, or maybe you should try this or try that, and problem solving. It's by far where I want to be. So the fact that you did it and you went through this path is super motivational.
It's good to know that too, because like I've had 2 job offers since I've been fully consulting that are both worth more than what I'm making consulting. But I was like, you know what? No, like I think I'm going to see this thing through. And again, like I will tell you, like maybe I failed, and that's fine. I'm glad to know I can always go back to corporate. And frankly, now I even have a better idea of what corporate roles I would take.
And you're more marketable.
I know there are corporate innovation teams that would I would fit in well, and I would have more of freedom to do what I want to do. I didn't know that before. Now I get to know some of those people, and so like it's just about kind of finding the right path. Actually, Marcel, that's interesting. I was thinking about a friend of mine who's frankly probably the smartest dude I know, but a sreally kind of path to what hearing from you is. So he's a physics major. He actually got his PhD in physics. Didn't really want to be academic. So he ended up being his starting job out of college. He went to Georgia Tech. Starting job out of college was project manager on the Windows Phone. So if you remember the Windows Phone, it didn't work.
It was not great.
But he found out there, like he already knew at that point that he just didn't like it. Like he had, invested a ton of time. He invested and he just didn't like it. And so he started coding, and he was like, turns out I really like being a dev. And so he left to go work at Tableau as a dev, was really successful there. And now he and like a couple partners started a startup. He was able to move back to Atlanta. He's the lead dev for a startup that is, they got $1 million in seed funding, like I think the night they opened, because they're like the other founders are, out of Silicon Valley and know their shit. And now they're like growing. And he's like, he is a physics PhD, but he's running a dev team and he likes coding and he's building shit, and that's what he likes.
That seems to be the case with a lot of people. So in the company I work for now, a lot of the head coders are in the physics space, because it seems there's a clear relation there. But I guess this is another question I have then. So you have most of your business experience through work and through your own adventures. What do you feel like about people trying to convince you to go back to like business school or get an MBA? Do you think it's worth it? Do you think it's not worth it?
Good question. So if you would have talked to me probably 6 months ago, I would have told you that my time at Bright Sellers was equally valuable to an MBA for me. And I got paid to do it. So I got paid startup wages, which was, a third less than what I was making for my corporate role. But because it was a startup and it was early, I got exposed to all these facets of business that I had never been exposed to. And I really felt like in terms of like a cost benefit, like an ROI piece, even the low salary I was getting, I was still getting the same education I would have got by paying a ton to get my MBA.
About $120,000 if it's accurate numbers today.
So now I feel a little different, especially now that I'm actually trying to like get into the venture capital side myself. like there is a piece to that where there is some really technical financial stuff that I just don't know. And there is some technical financial stuff where like having those letters MBA after my name would open some doors for me in a way that like before it didn't matter. Now, I'm still trying to make my way through this, and I think I see a path to do it without that. But I can tell you I see more value in it now than I did before. Now, with all of that said, though, like I can tell you in startup communities, most startup people think MBAs are a waste of time and money. There are a few, like if you're going to truly like a top 10 school, like do it. If you get in there, fucking do it. It's going to be all the things you need. I talked about kind of the, like, at least on the venture capital side about like, it's mostly white dudes on the coast, giving money to other white dudes on the coast. Well, the big secret is that 40% of venture capitalists went to either Stanford or Harvard. And so you're talking about like almost an entire 12-figure industry that came from 2 schools. Like it's bananas how tight it is. So like that's an opportunity that's just incredible. Now, with that said, like a lot of founders who like want to be entrepreneurs, like all they see is the cost and then the lost opportunity. Because the reality is like when you really want to build a business or build a product, like you don't need to go to school for that. Like nothing's stopping you from doing it. So if you're going to school, and I certainly never want to be on the record of talking someone out of education. So like, but if you're going to school, like all those dollars that you're spending are dollars you could theoretically be putting into your product. All that time you're spending is theoretically time you could be putting into your product. So if your ultimate goal is to put together some kind of product or something going forward, like if you just kind of look at like the resources and you go, instead of putting 2 years and let's even be gentle, let's say 100K total, 100K total in capital toward my education, and then I'm at 0 2 years from now, and instead I put those same 2 years and that same 100K into trying to make a meaningful launch. Well, worst case scenario is 2 years later, you're at 0, which is where you would be anyway if you did the MBA. So there becomes a pretty interesting cost benefit analysis there.
Makes sense.
Wow. I'm just motivated right now. I just feel like, okay, I can do it. It's going to happen.
You can. Well, the thing is too, if you guys start like getting serious about this, like obviously like consider me an open resource, but I can plug you into a whole bunch of different networks. Like I'm a member of a whole bunch of Slack channels that of people that are in the same place you guys are building stuff. And the other thing, like talking frankly for a second, like there is a lot more capital for Black founders right now. Like that's just the reality. Like it's still a shitty industry, but there are a lot of people that are realizing they've been shitty for too long, and they realize that that's bad PR, and they need to start pushing dollars to some people that haven't had it before. And so in this immediate moment, you will have easier access to capital than any Black founders have ever had previously.
Yeah, that makes sense. I can see that, especially with the current political climate that just went down, a few months ago.
Yep.
And I guess this is a question for myself, and also we tend to record these conversations and we post them on YouTube just for anybody else to watch. But there's this common misconception about entrepreneurship, of how lavish it can be and how exciting the lifestyle. And I feel like I have a lot of friends that have dove into this not prepared and not really understanding what entrepreneurship really takes, because they see this lifestyle that's portrayed on YouTube and wherever else. So going into this, what was your lifestyle actually like, right? Because it's great to see the end result, but throughout this process, what was it actually like?
It is not sexy. It is like I would say it's way more work. Like it is significantly more work than when I was doing a 9 to 5. Again, it feels like less work because I like it, but it is actually more work. I am lucky in that like my just wants are pretty light, and I think that's just more of a personality trait. Like I'm not enamored with like fancy cars, like thank God. I'm not enamored with like a lifestyle choices, so my lifestyle is a little more fitting for this. Like I'm able to tolerate more downtimes, and I don't know, I think a lot of times, especially like for somebody just making the transition, and even if they're not necessarily going into work for themselves, like going to work for yourself is a huge jump. That's where like you're going to be like, oh my God, this is crazy. But if you transition into like, I'm going to join a startup and learn some things for a little bit, like basically startups offer everything but dollars. So so that's the one thing they don't have is so like you can expect at least whatever your salary is now, you can expect at least to lose probably 30% of it if you decide to go work for a startup. But you get all the other stuff. Like you get, a lot more autonomy. You get a lot more like let me try to think of like when I first moved and how what that felt like. Well, I got like unlimited vacation time. Like that's a very common startup perk is like, we don't really care. Like we it's going to be so obvious if you're doing a bad job that we don't care to offer you unlimited free time. Like you just have it. You can work from home whenever you want. We got, we stock snacks. We know you're going to be here a lot. We know, so we want to like make you comfortable. So we're, we have snacks for you. We've got lunch coming. We've got, the cliche is a ping pong table. Like everyone has a ping pong table, but like, it's more so the idea of a ping pong table. It's like, like it's not uncommon to see people like need a brain break and no one cares. It's encouraged. Like there's good real music playing. There's like, you know what I mean? Like it's just like everything aside from the dollars is slightly better. Now when it comes to actually like getting into the nitty gritty of like, this is your baby and it's your thing. It's just, it is hard. Like, it's really like, it's stressful. Like everything is on you all the time. Like if you don't do something, stuff doesn't get done. Like that's probably the thing that's been, even after like I had time in startups before going to this, like, it's just really hard. Like, it's like some days, like vacation time is theoretically still infinite, but I don't get paid for any of those vacation times ever. Right. Like if I'm not working, I'm not getting paid. And on top of that, my business is getting smaller because like I also always need to be executing and doing business development at the same time. So I'm always like looking for that next work at the same time that I'm doing the current work. And so it's kind of relentless. And at some point, like I know that that's temporary. Like at some point, my goal is to get big enough where I can offload some of those responsibilities onto other people. And we're starting to get closer to that, where I have some other people I've been subcontracting stuff out to that are working more regularly and have been good. So I'm hoping I'm getting closer to that, but still like I'm a long way off from making the money I was making before.
Yeah. I think like, well, for me at least, just the idea of working for myself would be like the safety net that, the corporate does provide with, just like the
health benefits.
Yeah. Health benefits and FMLA, just everything is just like, that's just, that would be my only hesitancy, but I there's trade-offs and I guess it's something you got to live with.
Yeah. I mean, yes, like you're going to give up some security. Again, I can promise you it's not as scary as it feels. Like
it's not as bad.
You can buy health insurance on the open market. Like you just can't. It's more expensive. It's a lot more expensive and it's shittier insurance, but you're not going to be out on the out on the street. Like it's still there. And you can. It's just it's hard to. I never want to talk someone into one thing or the other, just because like so much of it is also your personality. As a good example, I have a really good buddy who, when I was at Bright Cellars, we were looking for perhaps in-house legal, a lot of compliance in alcohol. So we were like, it was a lot of legal work. And we were like, if we just had someone on staff, this would be so much cheaper than outsourcing this. Like, could we afford this? And I happened to have a lawyer buddy who was burned out on his law, like whatever he'd been doing there. And I was like, just come interview. And he showed up in like his 3-piece suit with his briefcase and like walked in the door. And almost immediately I was like, oh, this isn't going to go well. And like, we sat down and I was the one interviewing him. And at the end of the interview, and we're having a conversation. And at the end of it, I was like, dude, you're not going to work here. And he's like, yeah, I'm definitely not going to work here. This isn't for me. And it's like, and it's real. Like I tell that story to people when I was interviewing them for work in startups. It's just not for everybody. Yeah. And so a lot of it is like just recognizing if that is going to hit your personality, even if you want all the things that come with it on the good side, like the bad side, like it just might not fit you.
Yeah. I think that's what really matters the most, right? Can you handle the worst days with who you are as a person?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that's all I have. I'm Hey, thank you for, talking to us, taking your time. I'm so appreciative of that.
Yeah, definitely.
We definitely needed it. We
Yeah.
definitely needed this.
And I mean it sincerely. Like, reach back out as you guys are figuring out whatever next steps are. If you want to talk through anything, I'm happy. I'm always a Zoom chat away. Happy to have these conversations. Happy to make sense of stuff if you're feeling a little confused or trying to figure out a direction.
Awesome.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Thank you, man.
Awesome, man.
Have a great weekend. Oh, happy belated birthday as well.
Oh, thanks, buddy.
Happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
All right, man. All right, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed that conversation that we had with Forrest. It was definitely really informative. It helped me a lot. As you saw, I asked a lot of questions. It's a different day, by the way. So I hope you realize we changed outfits. Lighting's a little better. Figured some things out. But I guess now, just a couple questions. Evan, what do you feel like you got out of this? Like, what do you think that conversation, even him being your family, just being able to talk to him in this manner, helped you with?
Yeah, I mean, we're family, but we grew up probably about an hour away from each other. One of distant, but kind of kept in touch growing up. So just always kind of had that relationship as I looked up to him, but I really didn't have that day-to-day interaction with him. But what I took away from, because like I said, I knew what he was doing, but I really didn't have the full story, and so it was learning for me today as well. But if you just see the organic transition of what he did, he came in out of college, not knowing what to do, did what we're doing, right? Got a job, getting experience. And then you see he has that organic transition into okay, I did this, but I really want to get some fulfillment out of what I'm doing. And you see this is the thing that I think is the most commendable is when he took that job and he was talking about how the people around him were like, whoa, and it seemed super scary. Everyone was like, are you you have this job, why are you going to jump to Bright Sellers? And now that he looks back, he was like, it was the least scary thing I could have done. Everything seems scary until you're doing it, I feel like. And for him to make that move, it just shows a different, there's a different level in him. And I just think it's dope. I think that his story is an attest that anybody can do it if you really want to.
For sure, man. I think the biggest thing about him is that he was so relatable. Oh, shit. Hold on. I think what I was saying is he's definitely relatable, right? Mm-hmm. He came out of school. He went to school not knowing what he wanted to do. He liked some courses, took psychology, took philosophy, graduated, and is like, all right, what now? Right? Mm-hmm. He was in a relationship with his girl. She kind of did her own thing, and he kind of followed her because that's a real thing, right? You never know where your significant other's going to be. Mm-hmm. And so he just made things happen where he was. But he also mentioned how he hated his job. Oh, he didn't really hate it. He just didn't like the culture, which seems to be the actual problem most people have. It's not that you hate your job for the most part. For us too, right? We like our job. It's not bad. It's just the culture of what we're in that's kind of weird and not making us feel comfortable. Mm-hmm. And I think I think anyone can relate to that. And the fact that he was able to go through this, start his own thing, and is so far successful with it, attests that anyone can really do it, right? Mm-hmm. If you want to make a career change, it's possible. If you want to find a new, a more exciting culture, it's possible. It's out there somewhere. We just have to be willing to take the risks. And it's funny because I relate to him a lot in a different way. Him saying that it was the safest thing, less scary, the less scary thing he could do, is completely true. I feel more anxiety at my day job where I'm working for somebody where I have to perform a certain way than I did when I was 20 years old starting my AAU program.
Yeah,
I felt no pressure, right? I mean, I wanted to succeed, so I was always kind of nervous of okay, I need to do these things, but I was like, I can make it work. Mm-hmm. With my day job, there's certain things that are out of my control that I can't, I don't really have any power over that could make me lose my job. And I feel more anxiety in my 9 to 5 than I do when I get off and I'm working on getting new clients, setting up trainings, doing all this.
That's what when he said he works more, but it doesn't feel like it. I just feel like that's life.
Yeah, man.
That feels. I would rather do that, honestly, because you ask my girlfriend eventually, get her on
They'll
the
be on
podcast.
they'll be on the show.
But like she'll tell you like I work 24/7. Like I come home and I get right on the computer. I'm just not working. Like I'm not doing work. I'm doing stuff that I enjoy that will I hope one day come turn into
fruition.
work.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean, that's
And
it
so,
seems it turned out with him, right? He even
yeah.
mentioned how he just started helping people, and
Mhm.
they wanted to pay him. They're like, oh,
Yeah.
well, all right, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's so dope that like he found a job that was like also building his credibility as a startup. Like,
Mhm.
you know what I'm saying? That job transitioned him into his own business, and I just think it's so dope. But you also got to realize like it took 10 years if you like follow the course. Like he worked for 7 years, was with Bright Sellers for about 2 years, and then he kind of did his startup things for another year and a half. So like it took time. It definitely took time, and I feel like that's a good thing that we kind of just brush over, but it's a good thing to note that like it does take time.
It's so easy to feel like to see on Instagram, social media, YouTube, all these guys that made money doing this and that, and we see their end result, and it seems great, right? But we don't see the back end of like, oh, but they've been at this for 10 years.
Yeah,
right?
man. Like you brought it up. You brought up the grind culture. Like I'm killing it. Like I'm going at it all day, every day. Or like people like, oh, I made $1,000 in 2 hours.
Yeah, doing whatever.
Like that's all small picture. You know what I'm saying?
Very,
Like
man.
it's super very small frame. And that's why that's why we are the gradual grind. Like this is slow cooking.
Yeah, man. You know, it's funny. I hate this quote, and I think I've mentioned it before in previous shows, but we're on episode 11, so I'm going to forget some things.
Yeah.
Episode 11, we made it past the 10. But,
man, we made it.
but that thing of like, oh, rich people see opportunities, poor people see scams or something like that. It's like, but not really. Like a lot of the things we're calling scams is because they're scams. They're like promise you to get rich quick. And to be honest, if it gets you rich quick, it's either illegal or extremely volatile. Right? Either some people might make it all, most people will lose it all, or you're gonna get in some shit that you don't want to be a part of.
Right.
So, yeah, it's just you have to understand. Like, yeah, sure, you see that streamer that's making $100,000 a month, but he's been streaming for 6 years, 60 hours a week. Right? Like before he even saw any money.
Yeah.
So stop feeling. And this is kind of like worse to myself. Right? Like you have to stop feeling like you're supposed to make it right away. And that it takes time. Like one day you'll make $100, and then 6 months later $500, and then a year later 2,000, and then it just goes from there, right?
Also, something I think is like super dope. Like everybody might not view it as this because everybody has their own motivations and intentions, but like how he was talking about, because he runs his own business, he decides his prices, right? So he has like that sliding scale, and I feel like now especially in like today's world, like you can almost every single person that's like an entrepreneur on Instagram, like they have a course and they're trying to like run up a bag off the course, and they're like that's like their justification is like, I put all this work into it. Like there's people like Forrest who like really do this, and it's not even about that. Like I just found something, so I don't know, it resonated with me. Like that's genuine, and that's something that I could see myself doing.
That's real.
Like,
That's what I'm saying. That's why I remember you and I would have the back and forth on like me calling courses scams.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
I said before, there are some courses that will give a lot of value, and they're worth it.
Yeah.
Some of them are pretty expensive. But with
Right.
this random dude on Instagram saying my Forex course $100,
But that's the other thing though. Like I'm not calling, like, just because you do have a course and it is expensive, like.
But if
that
you're
doesn't
really trying to
mean-
help people that don't have the money already, why are you
Right, but
taxing them?
Right, but that might not be but that might not be the motivation.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
that's why I just found something super like human about that. I just think that's like top notch. I think that's a boss move.
Yeah, man, that's definitely a different level of thinking. That's
Yeah.
that's what's gonna make him, I guess, distinguish himself from anybody else in his field for sure.
I agree. Yeah. And so like what if so we asked him the question, like if he went back, would he would he take the same route, or would he just kind of jump in? And
He said no. He
And
said,
so
nah.
like when he said that, how did that make you feel like, damn, maybe I should jump the gun? Or are you still kind of like, no, I'm gonna take it steady? Because he also he did,
Like
like, he
talk about the
justified.
gradual
Yeah, he
transition.
talked about
Yeah.
the gradual transition. You don't have to just quit your job and everything like that. So, I mean, he's an advocate for both sides, which is, I feel like that's just because he's realistic. You know,
Yeah.
he's
It
seen
depends on the person, bro. It really
Yeah, I
depends on the
agree.
person. Like for you, it's easier for me to just lose my job and do whatever because I have
Yeah.
no one to take care of,
Yeah.
right? But you have a family. That's different. We have to take different paths because of that reason.
Yeah.
But for me, when he said that, man, it didn't make me feel like I had to jump the gun, but it made me realize I have to stop bullshitting, right?
Yeah.
Like, because I don't want to be, no lie, like, no offense to him, right? Of course not.
Uh-huh.
But I don't want to be 28, 29, 30 and be like, yeah, I wish I wouldn't have worked for those 7 years.
Yeah, right.
Like, I feel like now I should start, all the things I have written down in my notebooks and journals that I want to do and I have plans for, I should just start doing them.
Yeah.
And if I lose the money, I lose the money, right?
Right.
What is money other than just paper?
Well,
right?
like something that I think is dope. This isn't even related to the interview, but I don't even remember. This might have been last year when I was like looking for a job out of college, but I remember the University of North Dakota had actually told us this in like a seminar. Like, on average, like coming out of college, they don't expect new grads to like stay at a company for more than like a year right now, that's crazy. So like, I feel like don't feel obligated that, you know, that's going to be your 10-year job.
Yeah, man. And this is another thing. This is something I've talked about with different people. Don't make yourself reliant on the job. And what I mean by that, don't get the salary and then start buying lavish things that you really can't afford. And so now you're dependent on keeping a stable job to pay off those debts, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what really happens. A lot of companies want people that are indebted because they're reliable workers. They hate people that are independent financially because at any moment in time you could say, oh, I'm leaving, right? And now they have to spend more money and time filling that spot. They want the person that's in debt. They want the person that has a car note, that has a mortgage, that has this. So be smart with your purchases. So if you ever want to leave that job, you could do it whenever you want. Save some money, invest, live below your means, and just allow yourself the flexibility to pivot.
Yeah. So like, what is your greatest takeaway from this interview?
That it can be done. Like
It's
I
possible.
said, his path of what he took sounds eerily familiar, right? In so far in my life. And now I know that I can do consulting without being in a consulting firm. Right?
Isn't it dope how like he said that even if he did, so like he works for himself, but even if he wanted to go back into the corporate
he's
world,
more
like,
marketable.
he could.
Yeah, because he's more marketable. Imagine
Dope.
that, right? He
That's
made
dope. And he can make more. Like, like that's dope.
that is, and that's the thing,
That's
right?
super
And it's
dope.
funny because you and I talked about how I kind of want to get into like venture capital, and you're like, oh, I don't think you could do that, bro. You need money, right? Because we have our views, but then he's like, oh, and I just did it. Like it's possible, man. It's very possible. So just understanding that it's like, okay, I don't have to start degrading my dreams because I see roadblocks. Instead, I should look at it like he did it. Let me learn from what he did, right? And start going about that. And the biggest piece of advice was the idea of networking and how you're supposed to network. Like that was dope, right? The fact of like all these networking events and they're all bullshit. Really, what you need to focus on is making friends, helping people genuinely, and then from there your network builds.
Yeah. I can easily see why like someone like him has a strong network, because he builds genuine relationships, and like just off what we did yesterday, like that was genuine, and you could feel it. So I hope y'all took that away from that as well. Like
For sure.
doing good work will build good relationships.
For sure. All right, man. Anything else on your mind regarding this?
Man, I just know like there's people out there that are doing it. They're doing it, and it's not gonna look like how you think it's gonna look. So just be prepared for the ride and be prepared to work. I feel like this was an inspiring interview, and you know, I hope we can get more people on the show and learn more and see what's really going on out there.
See what's popping.
Yeah.
All right, man.
All right, bro.
I'll catch you later. Thank you all for tuning in for the Gradual Grind. Again, comment below if you want to join in the conversation. If you have any questions, share it on our social media because we're going to start posting, supposedly. Yeah. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, we're working on it.
It's a gradual grind. It's a gradual grind.
It's a gradual grind. Thank y'all for watching. Peace.
Peace.